Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Connecting with Kim here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. I am your host, Kim Droege. We're so glad you joined us today because as usual we have another great episode for you today. I want to give a shout out to my sponsor for my on-air wardrobe, the Spring Boutique, which is owned by the Spring of Tampa Bay, and they provide sanctuary and services to survivors of domestic violence and their children. And all net proceeds from the Spring Boutique and the thrift store support that mission. So I want you to go there. They have great stuff. I want you to support them, and you'll find lots of great things. And you can check out my Instagram and Facebook pages so you'll know exactly what part of the wardrobe came from the Spring and when it will be available. Okay, thank you. So we are so excited because we have a returning guest, and he's going to be returning on a quarterly basis, and we're just absolutely thrilled about that. So we have Commissioner for District 4, Michael Owen, in the chair again today. Welcome back, Michael.
Thanks for having me. Always great to be here with you.
It's fun. We love it. And thank you for taking the time out of, I know, your busy calendar to be with us. So last time, we're going to skip. Normally, everyone knows who watches the show. I normally give my guests at the top of the show a few minutes to talk about their life journey as much as they want to share. If you still think that there's somebody that doesn't know who you are, we can do that.
Yeah, I say we skip the journey and get right to work. Yeah.
So last time you were here in November of last year, you were commissioner-elect.
Yes.
You were maybe 10 days to 2 weeks away from your swearing in, which I had the honor of attending, so thank you very much. So now that you've been commissioner and you went to work right away, I can tell people without any doubt that after you were sworn in November, you and your staff went to work right away, and you were there all during the Christmas holidays and working hard. So in the short amount of time that you've been a commissioner, what has surprised you most?
Wow. That's a big question. You know, I would say a pleasant surprise, more so. You know, the county commission, it's a little bit different than the federal and even state politics. It's really not as partisan. There are so many issues that relate to roads, infrastructure, things that we can really work on together. And I think this board, I'm really impressed with this board. I think we've done a good job of getting to the point and getting the business done for the people of Hillsborough County. So, you know, it's been a lot of work, but I was ready for that. I was prepared for that. I think I told you when we started that we're going to be the hardest working office in the county commission, and we are. We're there Monday through Friday. My aides who are with me now, Sherry and Cassandra, work their tails off 5 days a week. And so there hasn't been too many surprises. As you recall, I had the benefit of not having a general election, so I was able to really get a head start, I think, over the other new commissioners.
Well, you could have hit the ground running right after the primary.
Yeah, so I'm definitely in my comfort zone just because I do have, I know we didn't talk about my journey, a lot of background in the real estate stuff. So the land use is really the heavy lift of the county commission in my mind. That's what takes a majority of the time. Those are the big challenges for District 4 is growth, basically.
Well, and the reason I bring up, ask you what's the biggest surprise since you became the county commissioner is sometimes, no matter what your background, you were a lawyer, like you said, you were involved in a lot of land use and real estate transactions, but sometimes looking at something from afar and then actually sitting in the chair are two entirely different things.
I'm still learning. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert. I rely heavily on staff to get me up to speed on a lot of stuff. We have a wonderful staff here in Hillsborough County, from Bonnie Wise and all the way down. So I'm definitely a beneficiary of having a already put in place staff that's excellent and has taken the time to work. Listen, you can work as hard as you want as a county commissioner. You can go through the motions, show up to meetings and vote, or you can request staff to brief you on every single item from the consent agenda all the way through the regular agenda and learn and master all this stuff. So that's what our offices do in the District 4 office. Every day we're here, our sleeves are rolled up, and we're going to work for the people of District 4.
And for those of you who don't know, who are watching and listening, District 4 is the largest district of the county commission districts. It has the breadth and depth of it alone. It goes from one county line to the southern county line, and you have rural areas, you have agriculture, you have cities, you have a lot of mixed use in your district.
Absolutely. It's which I think is what makes District 4 so great. It's so diverse.
I live in District 4.
Yes,
I'm happy
yes.
with it.
It's so diverse, from Apollo Beach to your coastal living to Sun City Center, one of the best retirement communities in the state of Florida, Lithia, which is the suburbs, Brandon Riverview, which you could argue is very urbanized and city-like, and then of course Plant City, which is that's an incorporated part of Hillsborough County. It's a lot of folks don't understand that we only have 3 incorporated cities, which is real for the population that we have. We should probably have more.
Right.
If you look at Miami-Dade, I think they have like 42.
But how many times has Brandon tried to become a city and it failed?
That's right. That's right.
And Plant City too, I think.
Yeah, because there's pros and cons to it. If you become your own city, you have your own government in place. You're in charge of police and trash and all that good stuff. So there is also a benefit of not incorporating as well, and I think that's what some of the folks, especially in Brandon, found out a long time ago. I was not involved in that, but I remember when they made a real good attempt to incorporate, and it didn't go so well. So.
You alluded to something on the conversation earlier, which I want to come back to. We talked about this before we went on air, because in a couple of the projects I've been working on lately, it's come up, the difference between what is called the consent agenda and the actual agenda that is followed at the county commission meeting. So I would think this would be a nice time to explain to folks out there what that is.
Yeah, so the way that a meeting works is that we'll have what's called the consent agenda, where the commissioners have an opportunity to move for approval of everything, and you vote on it, basically, which is always usually a 7-0 vote. So we are briefed before the meetings on everything that staff puts on consent. It can range from procurement to legal to every facet of the county, and usually what the consent's involved in, it's not anything that's really under any dispute. Usually it has to do with restricted funds or block grants, things that have already been approved in the past, so that we don't have to go over every single item and vote on it. If we had to do that, the government would never move.
Yeah.
That being said, we can pull, as a county commissioner, anything off consent. So if I see something on consent that I say, we need to talk about that, I can pull it right before the meeting if I want to. So we have the opportunity as commissioners to go over everything that's on consent with each department. I meet with each department before every meeting.
Okay.
And I go over the consent items to make sure that I have an understanding what I'm consenting to. And if I see something I don't like, I've only done it once so far, I'll pull it off consent and it'll be moved to the regular agenda, and then whoever it is that's bringing the item has to come there, do their presentation, then we get a chance for discussion, and then ultimately to vote on it.
What was that you pulled? Is it by if you remember?
I don't, you know what, I really don't recall what I pulled.
I wasn't trying to back you in.
Commissioner Wostel's pulled a few. I pulled one, it was right when we, it was one of the first couple meetings, and I remember it had to do with a dollar amount that just concerned me.
Okay, so generally the consent agenda is things that you guys have it's non-controversial, or it's already approved, or it's not going to be something that is going to require a lot of discussion.
Exactly. It was something that didn't have to do with restricted funds. It was using general funds.
Right.
And it was over $1 million.
Yeah.
So we pulled it. It was fine.
Yeah.
I just felt like we should discuss it because of the dollar amount.
Right.
That it had to do with. I think it could have been something related to affordable housing, but don't quote me on it. But it was something that should have been approved. But we discussed it, and I felt like, listen, whenever something hits a certain dollar amount, I think we got to be careful to just consent on it. We need to discuss it. This is taxpayer dollars, and every penny is precious to me. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what generally ends up on the actual county commission meeting agenda, which the folks can attend, folks in Hillsborough County can attend the commission meetings.
That's right.
Those are the items that you guys, you as a commission, agree it's going to have to be discussed.
That's right. And I think an important thing for your viewers to know now is that since January, we are open to the public. So public comments were usually on the phone, which you can still do. You can request that. Or you were over in Saunders Library.
Right.
Now we're back to business as usual, as if it was 2019.
Right. Before COVID.
So if there is an issue or something on the agenda or even consent agenda that you don't like, please come in. We want to hear from the public. No one knows your community better than you do. And if there's something that's going to negatively impact your community that we're voting on, we love it when people come in and voice their opinions.
How is it, just out of curiosity, how is the attendance at the county commission meetings?
Depends on the issue.
Okay.
Okay, so
Since you've been there.
yeah,
I know it's only been a couple months, but
I'll tell you, one of the most highly attended was the rabbit ordinance we just put in place. And I'm not meaning to laugh, but it was an issue that during the Easter holidays that's coming up, people will buy rabbits,
Yeah.
and they're not good pets.
Right.
They're terrible pets.
Right.
So they'll end up going to shelters or being let go,
Right.
and it creates a big problem. So it wasn't my ordinance. I would have never thought of it. It wasn't my amendment to the ordinance. Or actually a new ordinance, excuse me, and basically it banned the sale of retail rabbits. You would not believe the people that showed up.
Really?
You know? Also, Sun City Center with the exit in Kings Point, the emergency exit. Mm-hmm. They people in Sun City will get on a bus in Sun City Center. You know
Oh,
that.
yes.
And they will
if the
show.
issue's big enough, they will load up a bus and they will drop you off at county center, and you just.
That's what they did. That's what they did for this. And
What was the issue about the emergency exit?
There were they're wanted to put, the HOA wants to put an emergency exit, another emergency exit.
Onto 301?
Goes
Oh.
straight onto Sun City Boulevard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's going to create.
well, the issue is it goes through a neighborhood.
Yeah.
So it's that whole neighborhood
Right.
that doesn't want that
Right.
that exit there. So I actually moved to continue that because I said I wanted to hear from police and fire.
Right.
Is this necessary?
Right.
You know, if Chief Jones and Chad say, or Sheriff Cronster say, by all means, we need that for the safety of the folks in there. Well, then I got to make a hard vote, even though they don't want it. If it has to do with public safety, I'm going to go that route.
Would Jeff Mary, our resource deputy, weigh in on that?
He could. He could. Anyone could. You know, I asked, Sheriff Cronster, and they did weigh in on it, and they've actually pulled that item. So, but I think it's going to come back here pretty soon. Yeah.
Well, it is a concern down in our area because of the way the community is built,
Yeah.
only having so much access to 674 in case, I can't imagine, but in case we had to evacuate.
Yeah.
Or some other kind
Absolutely.
of thing happens.
I
emergency.
I make it a point. You know this about me. I go into the communities, so I asked that HOA to take me around. So I got on a golf cart, went into Kings Point because Kings Point's not the easiest place to get in.
Oh, no.
So
Very restrictive to get
very
through that gate.
restrictive, very restrictive. Great folks though, and
Yeah.
they took me around, showed me, and I do understand a lot of the concerns that they have. That back entrance it floods as well. So I know a lot of folks from Sun City Center watch your show, and it's a tough decision that we're going to end up having to make. I have a feeling down the road.
Well, we can come back to that. Because two issues that pop out for me right away that we should talk about is the transportation tax fund. It's like the black cloud over that never goes away. It's just like.
Yeah, I mentioned in my last meeting to the existing commissioners, I said, I don't know how you've done this for this many years. I'm exhausted.
This has been from 2018, right?
Well, I've only been there since November, and I'm exhausted of it. So I'm just happy it's going to come to fruition. I don't make any bones about it. I'm a huge supporter of our governor. I think he's.
Well, just review what is the latest proposal about the transportation.
Yeah, well, it's not a proposal. Well, we made a proposal. Hillsborough County. I actually voted against all four of them, or didn't vote for any of them.
Right.
I actually moved for us to send correspondence to the Department of Revenue because remember the legislature has asked us for nothing. They have not requested anything from us.
Well, let's even back up for the people out there that might be not. So the tax was approved on the ballot in 2018.
Yep.
It started being collected in 2019. It was promptly under a lawsuit by Commissioner Stacy White at the time, and who showed tremendous bravery to do that. And the issue of his suit was that the tax was being collected, but not being the distribution of the revenue was not being decided by people who were elected and accountable to the taxpayers. It was some kind of panel made up of all these. So he challenged it in the end in 2020. Towards the end of 2020, his lawsuit prevailed, and the tax stopped being collected, I don't know, sometime in March of 2021, as I recall. And by the time they got done collecting it, we have, folks, about more than $500 million of funds being collected. So now the funds went into limbo. What's going to happen with the funds? So what's the latest?
Yeah, $569 million is being held by the Department of Revenue, and that's
Florida.
Florida, yeah. And in that Supreme Court ruling that you were referencing, has directed our state legislature to spend those funds, which I am in 100% agreement of. First of all, I don't know why we would have the right to spend the funds when we collected an illegal tax. Technically, we're the bad actors, Hillsborough County. So, so I'm actually happy it's in the hands of the legislature. I have complete confidence in our leadership. Our legislature has proven their ability to balance budgets and spend responsibly. And if you can recall now, what changed between our last meeting and the meeting before was that the governor came out with not his proposal, but stated very clearly.
More like a mandate.
Exactly, stated very
I can
clear.
say that.
Yeah.
You don't have to say it.
And
more like a mandate.
And the big thing that he added to that, well, two things. One, he was very specific that it's not going to be used for transportation projects, public transportation, things
mass
like
transit,
that.
Things like that.
Mass transit. It's going to be used to fix our roads and infrastructure, paving, fixing ditches, things that we need so much in Hillsborough County, and especially speaking from my district.
For District 4? My God.
It is. Our roads are in just horrific shape. They're substandard. So, but the other component is the refund component. That was not, I don't think, contemplated by the legislature and leadership. Maybe it was, but I think that was a little curveball that the governor threw in there, which I think is the right thing as well. If people want their money back, if they want, they have a right to it. It's an illegal tax. Okay, if I take money out of your pocket and law enforcement says it's your money, but I can go ahead and spend it anyways, how does that make you feel? So,
well, for me personally, I mean, I think the process is going to be interesting. There's going to be, the last count I saw was $16 million worth of fees for the people that get involved in refund. Now, I'm a person who keeps excellent records, and so I can document, just on big ticket. I mean, I don't think I'm going to document every little bit of sales tax, but I did a lot of expenditures, big ticket expenditures during that time, during 2019 and 2020. I have the records to prove it. I'm happy to submit.
Are you going to do it?
I'm going to do it.
Okay,
why not?
Yeah, and
I think it's going to be. I don't really understand it. I think it's going to be a little bit, because it was basically what the Judge Barbas proposed was, a panel and you submit and then they decide. If you're just joining me now, I always forget this part. I happen to look at the timer and go, if you're just joining me now on Connecting with Kim, my guest in the chair is County Commissioner for District 4, Michael Owen, who is a returning guest and will be a returning regular guest on Connecting with Kim every quarter. So anyway, I personally, if I understand the process, I'll submit.
Yeah, and I would encourage all your listeners to do that. If you want to, this is your opportunity to participate in that process and get money back. What do I think, if I had to guess? Do I think that there's going to be large mass participation in this? I really don't think so. I think that there's still going to be a nice chunk of money that we can use for, don't quote me on this, but I still think we're going to have in the $300 million range of funds that we can spend to improve our roads and infrastructure. So I couldn't agree more with the governor. I'm not just saying this because I believe in his policies, but I could not agree more with his strict instructions on how to spend this money. So.
Well, if I was going to advise the governor, and he was, called me up today and said, Kim, what do you think about this refund deal? I would say to him, look, it's like almost 4 years after the fact, right? 3 years, 4 years. I think if you took a straw poll of Hillsborough County, I think most people are going to say, you know what, it's okay. Just spend all the money. Just send all the money back and spend it on those projects you talked about, the roads and whatnot. Well, you're right. I don't think there's going to be that many people, but there's going to be people like me who actually did, have records and can support. Yeah, I paid this sales tax.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, because I'm the exact person you just described just there. That, hey, I don't agree with the tax. It shouldn't have been collected. It's wrong that we have these funds, but
just
so much time has
better.
gone by. Let's sure, I'll take a paved road in my side of town. Fix Lithia Pinecrest. Fix Cherry Hill Road.
Yeah.
Let's fix those roads.
Just make my life better.
Just
send the money back and make my life better.
Exactly. But there's that component. But then there's what I think the governor's fixated on. What's the right thing to do?
Yeah.
And the right thing to do is to offer the folks that were wrongfully collected a tax from to have an opportunity to get those funds back. So I think his instructions provides everything that's right to do with this money. A refund process, and then now let's spend it on the things that really matter to the people of Hillsborough County. And it's hands down. I represent the overwhelming majority of the unincorporated folks in Hillsborough County that foot this bill.
Yep.
And
they did.
And
the tourists.
And I will say this too. I always say this. I also serve on the TPO as well. And one thing I've noticed is there's this disconnect between Tampa and the rest of the county that I think I want to work on that going away. It's my part of town's better than yours. If I go to Seattle, Washington, people say, where are you from? I say Tampa Bay. Now, Tampa Bay is not a place, that's the water, but that's what I say. I say Tampa Bay. I'm proud to live in the suburbs of Tampa, and Tampa's my city. So I really think we need to get kind of back to that. I hope we can, because Tampa's a place where we have all of our jobs, all of our sports teams, all of our nightlife and places to play and work. But in that same token, Tampa needs to recognize that the unincorporated part of Hillsborough County does not want to become the highest tax county in the state of Florida, and they're not interested in as much as public transportation and those facets. They need their roads fixed. They care about infrastructure, and they kind of want to be left alone. That's what the folks, a lot of the folks on the eastern and south side of Hillsborough County, they want government to kind of get out of their way.
Exactly. Okay, so the other thing that came up recently that I think we ought to talk about, and is something you initiated, is the vaping.
Yes.
So let's just kind of review the vaping.
Sure. So I know,
which I find terrible. I mean, I'm with you. I find it so obnoxious, unbelievable.
Well, it's
to me, it's almost worse than smoking.
It really is insulting when you drive by. And I'm not going to name particular bad actors, but I drive by some of these vape stores that are not just 500 feet in front of a school, 300 feet in front of a school.
Right.
They have cartoon characters on the front of their building.
Yeah.
It's advertising.
Right.
They're not advertising to you and I with cartoons and stuff.
No.
And if you walk in these places, I've walked in them, it looks like a candy shop.
Yeah.
You've got all these flavors and all that kind of stuff. And listen, I'm not out to get vaping in the store. There's been some stuff in the media that Michael Owens declared war on. I'm not. I'm pro-business.
No, that's not your
I'm
thing.
pro-business.
Right. They're a business like any other business.
However, when something becomes it's easy to see that they're targeting. Because you have to be 21 and up, first of all, okay? And when you're putting these right in front of schools, you're creating, I think a future clientele, and it's an epidemic right now. I live next to a Wawa, and the high school kids from Bell Creek and Newsom hang out there. It's kind of we used to do it at McDonald's on Bloomingdale when I was in high school. And I noticed they're passing these vape sticks around. It's a problem. It's a problem. And these kids are doing permanent damage to their lungs at young ages.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, vaping, in some respects, from what I've read, is actually, appears to be actually worse than actually smoking.
Yeah. And I have experience with this. I'm not a holier than thou person here talking about this. When I was in high school,
you have your skeletons.
Well, I chewed tobacco. I played baseball, and chewing tobacco was a part of our everyday life. We had a convenience store in left field they weren't intending to market to us. Okay, it was just a byproduct of that, and they would market, Copenhagen and all these different tobaccos, and it affected me. What's around your school matters. It affects you as a student because you don't have a lot of exposure to a lot of things in high school. So that's what I want to do. I want to prevent those dangers that are so close outside their front door. Just move them back. 500 feet I still think is too close, to be honest with you. But I want to be fair to these stores. And what my proposal does, it's not an ordinance. I'm going through the land development code to do this.
Okay.
I don't want to punish the people that are buying the products. That's not what I'm out to do. That's going to create a hornet's nest for our sheriff. Right. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is prevent these places from opening up in front of schools, period. That's it.
Okay.
And that's my proposal. I got a 7-0 vote. It's got to go through another meeting because it's a land development code amendment.
Right.
So I have no doubt it's going to pass. And unfortunately, it's going to be prospective, not so folks that are already there kind of grandfathered in. But
moving forward,
it would create a legal battle. But hey, sometimes we got to say, let's fix it now. And I just hope those leases expire.
Well, you got to put a stake in the ground somewhere.
That's it, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, you're putting a stake in the ground, and you're going to deal with it moving forward.
And I want to thank the staff. Our legal team has just been awesome at helping me delve through this, and then also the other commissioners on the board who have all supported me, Democrats and Republicans.
So we only have a couple minutes left. I know it flies. Any other topic you want to touch on in the few minutes we have left?
Yeah, well, I'd just like to tell everyone that the Strawberry Festival is around the corner. So, city, it's very rare that you can say that we have the best in the world at something.
Well,
in
good
Hillsborough
Lord,
County.
I saw your post where you had the whole court in there, and they brought the strawberry shortcake,
Yes,
and oh my
yes.
God,
And you know,
that looked wonderful.
One of the big things about Plant City and the court specifically, since you brought it up, it creates future leaders. Our own Attorney General was a strawberry queen. And these ladies are just outstanding ambassadors for not just Plant City, Hillsborough County, and we have the best strawberries in the world. Our growers, you know, a lot of people don't know. They think tourism is what drives the state of Florida. It's important, but agriculture is our #1 resource.
We need to keep pounding that into people's heads,
That's
too.
right.
That agriculture is the #1 industry in the state of
It
Florida.
is.
It is not
It
tourism,
is.
folks.
That's
We're
right.
not saying tourism isn't
Very important.
and
Tourism.
it's second, but agriculture.
Agriculture is the driving force for the state of Florida, and again, this Strawberry Festival, each year it gets better. It's a
Better,
billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
It gets better and better every year, and this year is going to be outstanding because it's really one of the first years where kind of COVID's really in the back rear view mirror, so everything's going to be in full force like it was in 2019, and it gives you an opportunity to meet a lot of the locals in Plant City. It's one of the
You're going to be in the parade, right?
I'll be in the parade, and then right after that, you'll find me. They're going to have strawberry waffles this year. It's a little different, so it'll be kind of like the strawberry shortcake, which is now our state dessert.
I know it.
So that was in
By decree.
By decree last year. Danny Burgess and Lawrence McClure both worked on that, but we're, as you can tell, we're in East County. We're really proud of the Strawberry Festival and our growers.
Well, we look forward every year. My mom and I've done it for maybe 25 years. You know, it's been so long, I can't even remember. Well, it used to be called the Governor's Lunch, and then it was, you know, it's changed names. But it's the luncheon that happens before the parade, and that always is a wonderful, wonderful event.
Governor came out and spoke, and he was outstanding as always. But besides the governor, you know, there's a lot of other folks there. County commissioners are represented, local legislators.
No, it's a
are
great.
there.
I love going to the Strawberry Festival luncheon, and it's coming up.
That's right, and the real rock stars of it are our growers.
Yeah.
Our growers are the rock stars of the Strawberry Festival, and they're the ones that we need to celebrate this time of year for sure. Because let me tell you, it's a tough industry now.
It's a tough
We have
industry.
heavy competition ranging from Mexico, and a lot of people don't understand that this business, we're a few cold days away from things going awry. And I tell people, these growers, they're mad scientists. The stuff that they do every day, the technology that's involved to get these strawberries to your plate are amazing.
Well, we want to thank you, Michael, for joining us today on Connecting with Kim.
Yep.
We appreciate so much you taking time out of your schedule to speak to our listening and watching audience out there. And so thank you.
Yep, thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. So he'll be back, I promise. He'll be back in next quarter, and we'll have another sit down with Michael. So please, you know, if you have something you want to talk about, let me know. But that's all we have time for today. Thank you for joining us on Connecting with Kim. We'll be back next week with another great edition. Take care, so long, and live life in our corner of paradise the best you possibly can.